Welcome to the Thrive Show, where we offer you practical advice that can be implemented into your daily spiritual lives to help you build a thriving home and a thriving sphere. Thanks for joining us.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Thrive Show. My name is Mike. I'm so excited that you guys chose to join us from wherever you're at. If you get a minute, go ahead and like and subscribe to our page so that you can continue to see all these Thrive Talks that will be happening here. I'm really excited to dive into the topic that we have today, especially as we just dive more into what our vision is here at our church at FCC, which is we're going to build thriving homes and spheres. And so I actually have the pleasure of having my wife with us today on the Thrive Show. So my wife's name is Holly. Hi. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so that everybody that maybe knows you or doesn't know you can kind of get a grasp of where you're coming from.
Okay, yeah. So growing up, I grew in a small town outside of Cincinnati in New Richmond, and we had like a 3-acre plot of land. I have 4 older siblings. I'm the youngest of 5. And we grew up going to church, so we would pretty much regularly eat around the table for dinner pretty much every single night, which was no small feat considering how many of us and the different things that we had going on at the time in our lives were super busy, but we always made it a point to meet around the table. And then as far as I can remember, my parents were always in like a community group and inviting people over for dinner. So I don't really remember a time that we weren't actively seeing other people and actively having others in our home, whether for broad game nights, we'd have like different rooms of games going on, or for flashlight tag on the regular outside. But yeah, so that's kind of my family. And then my personality is, if you're like the 16 personalities, I'm the debater. And if you are on the Enneagram, I am a 7, wing 8, which is the opportunist. That's it, yeah. Opportunist. Yes. So I'm the most extroverted types of personalities, and yeah, I'm shy and I'm not. I have my moments, but overall, I think I like the attention and just being wild and out there.
Yeah. So you hit a little bit on how your family got together for a lot. They ate around the table for dinner, which mine did a lot when growing up as well. And so the topic that we are actually going to be discussing today is going to be inviting someone to your home. So that we're going to talk about these different thriving moments and how to build a thriving home and sphere. And so inviting someone to your home is something that's really it can be so simple, but it also can be so hard. But it's something that really builds into a thriving home, is just opening your home into people and being vulnerable. And so these are all things we're going to talk about. But it's just really wanted to grasp that today of why it's so important to do that. So my question for you is, why do you think it's vital for someone to invite a person into their home, and how that builds into a thriving home?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of elements that we don't necessarily think about just in the aspect of inviting a person to our home. So one is there's this level of accountability when you invite someone into your home. So that includes how you interact with your children, how messy or clean your home is, or even seeing how a couple like ourselves would interact with one another, kind of behind closed doors in a way, so that it's hard to like fake who you really are when you're in a comfortable setting such as your own home. So yeah, that level of accountability, and then setting the norm for your kids as they're growing up. Like, we have always talked about wanting to have a home where people come and laughter's created, and you from a young age will create what is normal for your kids growing up. So if it's normal for you to invite people on the regular to come over, then they're going to think nothing of it, and ideally they will continue in doing that as they grow up and create their own families and their own atmospheres, like they will want to invite people in and be bold about inviting them in too.
Yeah. Well, what specifically though about inviting someone into your home, like creates a thriving atmosphere though? What would you say?
The thriving atmosphere, I mean, as far as like our whole life is centered around what God wants us to do and the life that He wants us to lead. So one of the major things is creating community, and not just where you live, but in your own home. So inviting people into that home, making sure that they see like the nitty gritty of your life. Like I said, includes like the shape of your home and the way you parent your kids, and not just for our benefit, but hopefully for theirs too, because oftentimes when almost every time, if you're invited into somebody's home, it creates that desire of like, I'm wanted, I am desired here, I have people who love me and like they want me to enter into their space. There's a level of trust and vulnerability, I think, that enters in that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big thing you touched on, you creating a level of trust. And so who or what types of people would you invite into your home?
Well, I feel like we invite a lot of people into our home. We
Yeah,
invite
for the specifically the people that are watching this or listening to this, like maybe some examples of, like for instance, don't just invite your friends into your home.
Yeah, no, we've invited a lot of people that we don't know at all. Like people that we've just kind of seen, usually in church or at an event or something, that we're like, you know what, we would love to get to know them, or like they're around our age. Like it would just be so great to get to know them on a more personal level. So yeah, strangers is definitely one of my go-tos that I do with people.
Yeah. So how do you invite those people into your home? Like what maybe a little nugget of advice that you've gotten over your time of doing so?
I don't know if this is a nugget of advice for everybody, but I will typically so I've chased after people as they're going to leave church, or I've just like remembered on the spot, because like I said, I'm very extroverted. It's not weird for me to just like, hey, do you want to come over? So for me, I just go up and ask them. I like the idea of a face-to-face invite and that being bold and going to somebody versus a text message. But I think a text message is great too, especially with the stage in which we're in. But it's literally as simple as like, hey, would you guys like to come over for dinner? Would you like to come have dinner in our house sometime? How about Tuesday?
Yeah, well, it all goes back to one of our leader values at FCC, which is pursuing people. Yeah. And that's a huge part of it, is continuing to pursue people, even though maybe they don't want pursued, or maybe you think they don't want pursued, but you're not sure, and just continuing to do that, to be faithful to it. It really shows that you love people, that you want, that you're not just, and inviting people into your home, it isn't just for your benefit, it's for other people's benefit too. Yeah. So I think that's a huge thing, which kind of plays into the next question I had for you. So how can we do this? How can we invite people into our home like during a pandemic?
Yeah, that's definitely a tricky question, because everyone's comfort levels and then health is different. So we have our sphere of people that we almost have to see regularly that we invite. As far as strangers go, I like to just look at it as like, just ask, assume nothing. I think at home we talked about like, just expect they'll say no. But I think the more I thought about it, I was like, I think your expectations should be just non-existent, and then just hopeful for like the greatest outcome, which is that you will have a connection with them and they will say yes. And if not now, then you've created an opportunity for them to say yes when they are comfortable, or, when they do feel like their health is good or your health is good or whatever it is. I mean, you can't just not do it because things are uncomfortable right now. You still have to like move with life. You still have to chase after what God wants you to do and the community in which He wants you to live in, instead of pulling back and being by yourself all the time. Right,
yeah. And we talked a little bit about that as we were preparing for the show. One of the things that came up was like, how do we do this in the pandemic? Who do we invite? And the fear of somebody saying no. It's like, well, I've tried so much and they've already said no.
Yeah.
And having this understanding that going into it, especially in this day and age and how things are, that most people they probably will say no. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you don't try. It doesn't mean that by you going to them and inviting them, that they won't feel, they won't walk away from that being like, oh, that was so great that they invited me and they thought of me like that. Like it's literally the littlest things that can really make people feel loved.
Yeah.
And like inviting people into your home is just such a simple thing to do. So we kind of hit on earlier about inviting strangers into your home.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of pull back from one of our past experiences of doing that, where we, so for the viewers or for people listening to this, Holly and I, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, we talked about it probably about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, so about 3.5 years ago, we were really feeling the pull of God in our lives, and I think at that point I was interning at the church.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I was quite on staff or not yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I was interning at the church. I was really feeling the pull of God in our life, and we're like, all right, well, what can we do?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of became this need that we didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
Where people our age or even younger, so we call them the young adults group, which we called it 18 to 30, but it was more like 18 to like mid-20s or so. But to where we would just say, on Friday nights, we're going to open up our home, and because there's all the temptations of the world that are going on out there, and people that are that age are typically, hey, you want to go out to the bar, you want to do this or that, pursuing things that aren't godly, and so we wanted to open up our home, and really had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. So.
No, we did. We had we had 2 children at the time who were both 1. Maybe even getting close to 2 and 1 years old. And then I was pregnant. And I think part of our motive, I think part of the reasoning that we wanted to invite people in was because we didn't have the capabilities to go because of our kids. Like part of it was because, we weren't going to be able to meet them out at maybe the hours that they would like to hang out at. So we tried to create a safe place, an opportunity to have interactions with adults that you may not know very well but that have like the same core values of what they want life to look like, and they just don't really know where to go or get started with that outside of church and outside of a community group where you can just like have fun, have conversations, and just, I don't know, exist together without like any motive than to just enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, and that was something we were talking about. Like, sometimes when you put the label of this is a church-sponsored event, so to speak, people are like, they'll have 5 excuses as to why they can't be there.
Yes, for sure.
And so we really just literally opened up our home to be like, hey, we're just here. Yeah. If you want to come. I mean, there were weeks where we had like 1 or 2 people show up.
Yes.
But then there were weeks where we literally like.
We were bringing in our end tables by the couch
because we just didn't have any
enough
room.
seats.
So, but it was really great though, and so that the point I wanted to make about that, or to ask you about on that, was, that was we were married 2 years, so that was our second.
2.5 years.
Yeah, and so that was our second year of marriage, and we were still trying to figure it out. So how did that? From your perspective, how did that build into us having a thriving home? Yeah,
so at the time, we had just moved into our house probably 6 months prior to that, and we'd lived with my parents at the time, and we'd always talked about wanting to invite people over, but because we lived with my parents, we wanted to like respect that was their house and not just invite over whoever we wanted to. So when we got the space, we kind of just jumped at it. We knew our space was small, but we knew what we wanted, and we didn't want to create an excuse to not do it. So we wanted to do it early on too, so that we were used to it as like a new mom, and now I have my own, like we have our own home, but I say I have my own home because the responsibilities of what that house actually ends up looking like, it falls a lot on me. So I could have looked at it like it was too much. Like, small kids, I'm pregnant, I have this house to take care of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But we really chose to be really intentional about, like, no, this is the life that we want. This is how we want to do things, and let's just do it. Let's stop, like, waiting until our kids are older, or stop waiting until we have a bigger table or a bigger dining room even. Like, we just kind of went all in really fast.
Yeah, we didn't mess around. We were just like, all right, this is
Yeah.
this is what we have.
Yeah,
and
it kind of did fall in our lap. So we just were like, say yes. Like, our I think one of our mottos in life is just, like, say yes. Like, if we feel at all like it could be God, like, just say yes, you know? What's the worst that could happen by inviting people into your home to share a meal and get to know each other?
Yeah. So how did that specifically, though, like, help us thrive, do you think? Or did it?
I think it helped us thrive. I mean, I would say now it's very easy for us to invite people over. I would say when you let people into your new marriage, when you're still finding things out, like, with other people being there, things can be frustrating, but you, like, still try to be your best self. So I think whereas if nobody came over, we could just, who would be accountable to what we said to each other, or to, like, the state of our home. But because people were regularly coming over, like, it created a space where I would try to clean the house more. And, you know, obviously our interactions were, not to say they were bad before, because they weren't, but now there are other people to just make you be aware of, oh, maybe I said that in the past and I shouldn't say it now because somebody else is here, or ever for that matter. But yeah, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, so as we kind of wrap up the show, just wanted to leave the viewers and listeners with a little bit of nuggets of maybe some helpful information, and you can elaborate on these if you want.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really Holly and I have figured out through this entire process was when you invite somebody into your home, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, to go to that place. And it's just amazing what happens when you are vulnerable, when you are like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And sorry, the house isn't clean, I have kids. And I mean,
that never happened.
we definitely have never used that excuse before. But really, seriously, like, you know, it's, to me, and I don't know about you, a house is more inviting for me when I walk in and it's not in an impeccable condition. Like when you walk in and, like, all the throw pillows are perfectly on the couch and everything just got vacuumed and everything, you know.
Yeah, it looks nice, but it's not super realistic to life.
Right,
so it's not very relatable.
Yeah, when people come to our house, it's like, yeah, we live here. So, sorry. But we also have 4 kids now.
Yes.
So that's a big change. But yeah, be vulnerable, be open to being yourself. And that kind of leads to the next point is you don't have to do this perfectly. You can 100% learn as you go. And that's what we learned a lot from our time with the young adults group that we had that came over, that ate with us, was just that we didn't have it together. We weren't perfect. We had people sitting on end tables. we had a small, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that was, I think,
it was like a manufactured home.
Yeah, just over 1,200 square feet. Like, it was not, it wasn't fit to accommodate a ton of people to come in there. But, and we didn't do everything perfectly. There was plenty of times where I was just starting to cook dinner. You were just starting to cook dinner as people got there. Yeah. And, we've picked up a lot of nuggets of help from, and just different things from different people. But, you don't have to be perfect. Yeah. To invite somebody in your home.
I don't have the gift of hospitality at all. And it doesn't, it's amazing how forgiving people really are. Like, we think they care about your clean home. We think they care about, like, being served as they walk in the door.
Yeah, or, like, that the food might taste good. Yeah. It usually did. So.
Sometimes, I think one time it was a fail. But yeah, like, that stuff, we think it's more important than what it is. What's important is they feel welcome, they feel desired, they feel loved, and almost like they feel trusted to be able to walk into your messy life and be vulnerable in that moment. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, this is messy, or like whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't think I've had anybody been like, oh man. I've actually been thanked on more than one occasion for inviting people in while still messy.
Yeah.
Because it's created that like, oh, maybe I don't, like, because they didn't care, but they thought other people cared.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to do anything to let your house,
It's not that messy.
Yeah, it's really not that messy. But yeah, for sure, you want to be, and that's what the Bible tells us to do. It tells us to pursue hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main reasons that we do invite people to have dinner with us, to sit around a table, is because there's just something special about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus knew that, because oftentimes you would find him, he would be at a tax collector's house, or somebody he shouldn't be with, according to the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And he would be around a table, sitting with him, building relationships. That's how Jesus did it. That's who we want to model.
Yeah.
And that's, really how to build a thriving home. One of the things you can do is just simply invite somebody to share a meal with you, to play games with you. I mean, a lot of amazing and awesome moments in our lives and in life in general happen around a table.
Yep.
And so it's literally that simple. So just want to encourage you with that. Be vulnerable. You don't have to be perfect. And ultimately what this is about is connecting with others. And that connection will lead to a thriving home, because you'll be able to stay connected with people around you. You'll be able to, you and I have gotten closer and more connected through inviting people to our home.
Yeah, definitely.
I would yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully I'm right on that. But yeah, so if you're listening to this or watching this, just know that, it's all about the connection. It's all about pointing people to Jesus, and a really simple way to do that is to just simply invite people into your home. So I hope that this was some great information for you, and was hopefully insightful at some point. Holly, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to many more of these. So until next time, we'll see you.